which kicks off tomorrow. What are they going to do in it? Let's sift through everything they've said about the draft and all the rumors that we've seen on the internet the last couple of days. I'm Paul Gallant, and this is a 2025 NFL Draft Preview edition of the Gallant Says podcast.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people wonder.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to see.
Are you kidding me? Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. It is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, 5:56 p.m. Central Time, live on YouTube at Paul Gallant, on Twitch at Gallant Says, on X and Twitch at Gallant Says, on Instagram at Sports Gallant, and on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. You can usually catch this thing Monday through Friday around 4 p.m. Central Time. You can occasionally catch it after major Houston sporting events like tonight's Rockets and Warriors Game 2, which I will be going to at Toyota Center in about an hour or so. It's also available after the fact wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. If you ever want to cut me off mid-thought, you can super chat me on YouTube, and I'll play this. Just kidding, I'll play this.
Paul, stop talking. Listen.
And guess what? You get to cut the line, and I will answer your question right away. We're a little rusty. If you watched the first attempt at doing a live stream, had the wrong thumbnail up, and then I played the wrong drop to open this thing up. Hopefully, the Houston Texans will not be as messy when tomorrow's NFL draft kicks off. 7 o'clock Central Time or so. They currently hold pick number 25. Before we get into all of that, I love the NFL draft. I saw an op-ed that was written by, New York Magazine or something like that, about how the NFL draft is boring. I disagree. I think the NFL draft is a very watchable TV product. And believe it or not, there is a sentimental side in me that still believes that the game of football is magic. It's a sport that when I was a little kid, it was all I wanted to do. I thought until I was about 16 years old that I was going to play in the National Football League. Then when I was 17, I settled for Arena Football League. And then when I realized that I wasn't that big, I was like, well, how do I keep talking or covering, or how do I stay a part of football in some way, shape, or form? That's why I do what I do. That's why I host a sports talk radio show. I went to Syracuse University to study broadcast journalism at the best sports broadcasting country, best sports broadcasting school in the country. They're not very proud of that moment right there. And I'm very lucky that I have this job. Football's still my favorite. I look at the NFL draft as this. I look at it as the realization of a dream for lots of young men, boys who were once like me, who grew up and eventually get to play a sport that I hope they love for the rest of their life. So it is cool to see all these guys, how emotional they are with their families when they're finally drafted, and whether or not they end up being successful pros, they're one of a select few people that actually get to make it all the way to the top level of the most popular game in the United States of America. I think it's really cool. I think we should actually revel in that. We should appreciate that guys are finally getting to accomplish something that they have fought and clawed their whole lives to reach this pinnacle of football. And sure, there's another level, winning a Super Bowl, being a Hall of Famer, all that. But I think it's really cool that guys get to have this moment. I'm jealous. So I say all that, but I will admit, I fucking hate coverage of the National Football League's draft. I hate it. I hate the before, all the mock drafts, all the people who now online believe that they, because they have the internet, because they have access to NFL All-22 film or college All-22 film, that they're a film expert, that they know ball better than the people that actually do it for a living. That's everywhere now. Everyone thinks that they're an expert. And when it comes to the NFL draft, no one's an expert, not even good National Football League teams. No one's an expert. It is hard to draft. It really is. And I think that a lot of these experts that cover it and pretend to study film and know who's good and who isn't good, I think a lot of those people are full of shit, first of all. And second of all, I think they make assumptions that this is just a really, really easy thing to do, to scout players that will fit in your scheme, in your situation, with your roster, with your talent, with your coaches, and that the guy's actually good to begin with. There's a lot of guessing going on. But the over coverage and the draft industrial complex, the rapid expansion of it where everyone now thinks that they have a seat at the table, that their opinion matters, I hate that side of it. Believe it or not, at 36 years old, I've gotten to a point in my career where I know what I don't know, and I'm okay admitting it. And when it comes to scouting these prospects, I'm not going to bullshit you. I don't know a damn thing about many of them. I've watched a bunch play college football. I recognize a lot of the names. I have checked out some mock drafts, the educated ones that actually take into account what agents are saying and what teams are saying, to get a feel on who's going to get picked where. But I fucking hate the draft coverage leading up to it. And then after it as well. Everyone's giving out grades the day after. And people used to have balls when they gave the grades. At least that provided something where people were giving out grades and saying F. But then the 2012 Seattle Seahawks draft class happens and everyone became a pussy. Now, all of a sudden, everyone's terrified to actually give an accurate grade or a ballsy grade, a strong grade. Everyone gets a fucking A after the fact, yet all this criticism leading up to the draft. I just hate it. I hate the draft industrial complex. There are some people that I really do respect, Lance Erline at my station, that do this for a living, but I hate it. I hate NFL draft coverage. Paul, why are you doing it right now? Well, listen, it's my job. I do love football. And I figured I'd help some people sift through all the tea leaves of what the Texans might do tomorrow, Friday, and on Saturday as well. But generally, my pre-draft coverage has been mocking it. I put together a big board of prospects that I'd like the Houston Texans to pick. At guard, Donovan Jackson, Ohio State. Tyler Bucco, Alabama. Tate Ratledge, Georgia. Jonah Savainia from Arizona. Joe Huber from Wisconsin. At tackle, Armand Membu from Missouri. Josh Simmons from Ohio State. Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College. Anthony Belton from North Carolina State. Aaron Ursary, Minnesota. Charles Grant, William & Mary. At wide receiver, Travis Hunter, Colorado. Tetoroya McMillian, Arizona. Jack Beck, TCU. Jalen Royals, Utah State. At defensive tackle, Derek Harmon, Oregon. TJ Sanders, South Carolina. Alfred Collins, Texas. Jamari Caldwell, Oregon. At tight end, Tyler Warren, Penn State. Harold Fannin Jr., Bowling Green. Terrence Ferguson, Oregon. Mitchell Evans, Notre Dame. Jackson Hawes, Georgia Tech. At running back, Ashton Genty, Boise State. At running back, Trevion Henderson, Ohio State. Omarion Hampton, North Carolina. Quinshawn Judkins, Ohio State. Cam Scatabo, Arizona State. And at linebacker, Jalen Walker, Georgia. Demetrius Knight, South Carolina. Cody Simon, Ohio State. Chris Paul Jr., Ole Miss. Kobe King, Penn State. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, please do. And then watch all the videos that I have that look like they are draft previews. I put a lot of work into these draft previews. And by put a lot of work into it, you know what I did? I went and I took a look at Lance Zierlein's prospect rankings, and I read all of the unintentionally erotic sounding lingo that Lance Zierlein put in his draft profiles. And the guys that we thought had a lot of it, the guys who sound like they fuck, I put them on a list. And here's the funny thing. All that work that I put into studying up prospects and putting this big board together, ultimately this big board is going to be as good as some of the big boards that are actually put together by people who put in a shit ton of work to put it together, who know what they're doing, that run NFL teams. let alone the people that scout for a living, et cetera, et cetera. So I say all of that just to tell you that everything that you have heard, everything that you think you know leading up to the draft, take all of it with a grain of salt. You don't know shit. I don't know shit. NFL teams don't know shit. And if you can't take it from me, well, how about you take it from our good friend, the man who, of course, has constructed the Houston Texans, old Vesty himself, Nick Caserio. Here he is last week at his pre-draft press conference.
I'd say honestly, this time of year is a bunch of noise out there. It's a bunch of garbage.
Do you hear that? One more time for everybody in the back.
I'd say honestly, this time of year is a bunch of noise out there. It's a bunch of garbage.
Boom. That's all you need to know. More from Nick Caserio when it comes to the draft and how you should be looking at it, because this is how actual teams look at it.
Look at everything and we'll try to make decisions that, we think make sense for your organization. They're not all going to work. I mean, I've said this before. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said it, but it's a lot. You can ask Omar. I mean, the draft's 50-50. I mean, that's what it is. So some are going to work, some aren't going to work. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
It's 50-50 for the best teams. Now, there are some teams who are awful at drafting that find terrible players year in, year out. The Jaguars, among others. But the best teams are going to be 50-50. That's why I bury my head in the sand this time of year. I'm just annoyed by the amount of people that think that they know what they're talking about with this. I think a lot of us in this industry need to admit we don't know what we don't know. We all think that we have all the answers when we're young. The longer you're in this game, the more you're going to realize, the magic of sports is that you don't actually know what's going to happen on any given Sunday. You don't know who's going to be the best player in any given draft. So I would like us all to operate with a little less certainty going forward. And when you operate with a little less certainty, you know what you're going to do? You're going to give a little bit of grace to every single player who gets drafted, and you won't end up being a fucking idiot and booing J.J. Watt like people did before during the 2011 NFL draft. Remember Chris Baldwin had that piece for Culture Map, or was it Culture Map, Paper City Mag? I forget. I know he's at Paper City Mag doing a great job covering the Cougs now, but he called him a pizza boy. It was ridiculous. Let these guys actually get on the field, and then we figure out whether or not they're good. And sure, there's going to be rumors about guys potentially not being a fit, like a Jamarcus Russell or Johnny Manziel. But for the most part, let these guys get to the NFL level, appreciate that they have fought their whole adult and child lives to get to this point. Just sit back. So what are the Houston Texans going to do in the draft? It's a good question. I want to start off by saying Nick Caserio seems very confident in himself. I base that off of some of the things that he said, some of his mannerisms at last week's pre-draft press conference. I mean, the guy's even figured out a way to not sound like a robot.
Nick, you said you've made some mistakes in the past. I'm not going to ask you about those mistakes. I'm just going to ask you.
Oh, you guys fucking talk about them all the time, so.
Obviously.
Did I just blow up television?
All right. First off, I mean, the man swore. Everyone's swearing these days. You see all the politicians that are doing it in Congress to try to seem more like an everyman. Nick Caserio is doing it too, but honestly, I think this is the most important part, and I joke all the time that Nick Caserio, who has not aged at all since when I used to go to Patriots games when I was 12, 13 years old, he looks exactly the same right here as he did in the programs that I used to get while going to Pats games at Gillette Stadium. But let's hear that laugh of a possible man, possible robot one more time. I mean, that is a man who feels very comfortable right now. And he should. He's done a great job putting this team together over the last couple of years. You can't deny it. You can't. if you take a look at what the Texans have done since Casario's taken over, his first draft where he doesn't have a first-round pick, they get Davis Mills, Nico Collins, and Brevin Jordan. Davis Mills is a pretty capable backup quarterback. I like him much better as a backup than as a starter. I can't believe that we had a bunch of people that were Texans fans that thought Davis Mills was the answer at one point in time. Nico Collins is one of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. That's not a debate. Brevin Jordan's pretty good blocking tight end, pretty good pick to find in the 5th round. His second draft, okay, a couple of misses, but Derek Stingley Jr., 3rd overall, one of the best corners in the game, if not the best corner in the game. Jalen Petrie, now a nickel corner, gets that extension. At the very least, he does exactly what the Houston Texans want him to do. Kenyon Green, a miss. John Mechie, seems like a miss, but a flyer that you take given the fact that this guy was a projected first-round pick. He gets fucking cancer, tears his ACL. We're all hoping that John Mechie's going to figure it out. It's an uphill battle for him. Christian Harris in the 3rd round at linebacker. I know he didn't play this past season, but I thought he was great at the end of 2023. Dameon Pierce. People hate on Dameon Pierce all the time. They forget how good he was in 2022. The guy is explosive as a running back. His 2023 draft, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson in the 1st round. Holy shit. What a couple of picks. Trading up to get Anderson. What a ballsy move. Juice Scruggs, yeah, we're waiting and seeing. Tank Dell, I mean, that's a 3rd-round pick at wide receiver who, when healthy, has been fantastic. Henry To'oTo'o as a 5th-rounder at linebacker. The guy's contributed a lot. Jarrett Patterson and Xavier Hutchinson as 6th-rounders have contributed. And then this past draft, Kamari Lassiter as a 2nd-round pick. Saw a lot of him last year. He looked good. Blake Fisher played at the end of the year. We'll see. Kalen Bullock, Cade Stover. I think he's done a really good job with the drafts the last couple of years, so I don't mind him flexing a little bit and saying hard-o stuff like this when asked if the Texans draft for need, if the situation allows them to draft wherever they want.
When you look at what you did in free agency, do you feel like it puts you in a position where you don't have to, obviously no one wants to draft purely for need, you have it set up where you can be flexible as far as positions and BBPA?
Yeah, well, we've never drafted for need around here. I mean, we're never going to.
Boom. We're never going to draft for need here. Well, we'll see in the draft because it does seem like the Texans know that they need offensive linemen. But Nick Caserio is clearly feeling himself. And you know what? Good for him. He should feel himself. The guy's done a really good job turning this organization around. Here are the Texans' picks in this coming draft. Hang on. Sorry. You know what? We're getting used to doing the live stream again. It's been a while since we've done it. Doing the solo show by myself has led to lapses. As you can tell, there's some technical difficulties to open up this show. But look, I think he's done a really good job with the draft. And I think that you could tell that Casario's feeling himself because he also made a couple of interesting comments just talking about the current state of the Texans roster. Here he is, Nick Caserio, the first time that he said that, hey, listen, whoever we end up drafting, I mean, they're going to have to fight just to get playing time, just to make this team.
Whoever we bring in, I mean, it's going to be hard to make this football team. So, I mean, just try to get the right players. But we feel good about the players. I mean, our board's probably smaller than some other boards, and that's okay. But
our board's probably smaller than some other boards. Keep that in mind as we get further and further into this show. If it's a smaller board than most, then he probably realizes that there are certain players that are going to be difficult to get. And if we have to trade up, we will trade up.
I mean, there'll be players that pick on Thursday. There's going to be players that pick on Friday. Honestly, there's going to be players for us to pick on Saturday that we actually feel good about. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to get a good player if we pick at 25. So, and if we don't pick at 25, then wherever we pick next or whenever we do pick, we think we're going to get a pretty good player.
Confident, and of course you're going to say that at a press conference, but he's confident that they're going to be able to find a guy wherever they end up picking. And on top of that, he seems to really like the roster. And this wasn't the only time during the press conference that he mentioned how he feels about the state of the roster. He thinks there's a lot of depth there. More from Texans GM Nick Caserio.
We think we have a good football team right now. The goal is to try to continue to add good football players.
Obvious statement, but I felt it was noteworthy that multiple times they said, yeah, we like what we have. But I would imagine there is one group that the Texans look at in the mirror, just given the way that they have addressed this offseason, trading Laramie Tunsil for multiple picks to the Commanders, Trading Kenyon Green somehow for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. What a trade that was. Not quite the Deshaun Watson for all those picks trade, but a pretty damn good one nonetheless. Cutting Shaq Mason. Signing Laken Tomlinson. Signing Ed Ingram. Signing Cam Robinson. They've brought in a lot of offensive linemen this offseason. And I doubt that they are done. They have the 25th pick in the first round. 4 picks in the top 89, pick 58, pick 69, pick 79, which they got from the Dolphins through the Eagles and Commanders. It's part of the Laramie Tunsil trade. And then pick 89. They have 1 5th-round pick, pick 166 from the Buffalo Bills. They also have 2 7th-round picks, pick 236 and pick 241. We know Nick Caserio likes making trades. He made, over the course of his time as Texans GM, 22 trades either shortly before or during the NFL draft. We also know that he likes trading up. 13 trades per Cody Stutes. That's the most among active general managers. So what is he going to do with those picks? I mean, everyone and their mother wants the Houston Texans to select offensive linemen. Even Cal McNair, owner of the Texans, seems to be aware that the Texans would be best served drafting an offensive lineman. Here he is with Aaron Wilson at the NFL owners meetings.
The coaches can put 5 guys on the field, the best 5, put them in the right spots and coach them up, and let's go play. So we're really excited to see what's going to happen.
He's looking for the best 5 offensive linemen. Okay. I mean, it's not a lot there, but if you want to get a feel for how the McNair family feels about the offensive line, perhaps what's missing from them, that if they were to fix it in the offseason would allow them to get to where they thought they were going this year, I'm going to turn it over to both Hannah McNair and Cal McNair, again, via Aaron Wilson at the NFL owners meetings.
I really thought we were going to go all the way this year, and I felt it in every part of me, and you could feel it from the team. They believed it as well, and the belief was throughout the organization. So when we lost in Kansas City, that hurt. That hurt a lot because we were right there, and I really thought we were going. It was just a belief throughout the whole organization.
Belief, and then, we had some key injuries down the stretch there, especially our wide receiver room. That caused a little bit of a flip, but we had a really strong running game, really good wide receiver room, quarterback playing at a high level, defense playing outstanding.
Notice anything that he didn't mention there? He said nothing about the offensive line. Good. And while I think the Texans ownership is rather hands-off, I do think that in the past, I'd specifically point at the 2023 NFL draft. We're leading up to it. We heard a lot of rumors about how the Houston Texans really liked Will Anderson. I feel that at times, Texans ownership puts just enough pressure on Nick Caserio, the GM, on DeMeco Ryans, the head coach, to do things that they think are in the best interest of the organization as a whole. I don't know how much they liked C.J. Stroud, but they still drafted C.J. Stroud. From what I understand, based off of what was reported leading up to the 2023 NFL draft, they really liked Bryce Young of all the quarterbacks out there. Bryce Young goes first overall to the Panthers. Texans are on the clock. Perhaps they were told, hey, we're going to get Will Anderson, but let's compromise here. Since in the 3rd spot, the Cardinals don't need a quarterback. I'm Nick Caserio. I like trading up. Here's the compromise. You take a quarterback with that 2nd pick, and you get the guy DeMeco Ryans really wants, and that Nick Caserio really seems to want, and Will Anderson with pick number 3. We trade up to that spot. We figure it out later. We trade up. I felt like there probably was some sort of compromise behind the scenes when it comes to trading up a lot of draft capital to go up and do 2 picks in the top 3. You know? Has to be something like that. So just to go back to what Cal McNair said a couple of weeks ago, I think that if you read between the lines here, there's a very, very good chance that Cal McNair has told the Texans, DeMeco Ryans, Nick Caserio, anyone else who will listen, guys, We got sacked 8 fucking times against the Chiefs in the playoffs. Let's get some offensive linemen. More from Cal.
And so with the offense clicking and the defense going, we felt we really had a shot. So we're looking forward to this season and see what happens.
If you get an offensive line, might be a little bit further down the road that the Houston Texans go. So we know the Texans want to fix their offensive line. They're trying to fix their offensive line, and that they need to fix their offensive line this offseason. What's been really interesting, though, compared to years past for the Texans leading up to the draft, is how leaky things have been. We have been hearing from a variety of different people about how the Texans are looking to trade up in the draft, which might be predictions based off of past moves by Nick Caserio. After all, a little bit ago, I said he's traded up 13 times. It's the most among active GMs. And he's done that in just 4 years. I doubt he is the longest tenured GM. Maybe he's the longest tenured GM in the AFC South. Chris Ballard actually has that on him. He's done it a lot. So this could be people making projections and posting them online based entirely off of Nick Caserio's history. But it feels this year more than ever we're hearing a lot about the Texans wanting to trade up. Here are some of the people who have reported them, NFL insiders. Adam Schefter, ESPN. Texans are all about upgrading their OL this weekend. He also expects them to be active. Also the Philadelphia Eagles. Diana Rossini at The Athletic. Quote, the Texans have been actively making calls about a potential move up. So don't be surprised if Houston makes a jump on Thursday night, end quote. Albert Breer, also of The Athletic. The Houston Texans are, quote, sniffing around, end quote, on a potential trade, maybe for offensive line. Matt Miller, NFL draft scout for ESPN, quote, the Texans are reportedly desperate to fix their offensive line, end quote. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, quote, the Texans are calling into the top half of the first round to potentially move up. Fowler also, at the very least, gave this. Teams behind the Texans have also heard from Nick Caserio and couched the whole thing with, it's possible the Texans are just doing their due diligence across the board. But it's been a very leaky sounding operation, which is different than years past. Honestly, it's one of the things I've respected most about the Nick Caserio Houston Texans. The Texans these days seem to treat we in the liberal media the same way that Detective Dignam from The Departed treats the feds. Feed them shit and keep them in the dock. That is what the Texans have done in years past. So why is this year different? Why all of a sudden are the Texans' plans so discussed? Why are there so many people hearing things about what the Texans might be doing? I think it is very fair to wonder if the Texans are putting out smoke screens about potentially trading up for an offensive lineman. Maybe there's a skill position player they are hoping that falls. They do need a wide receiver in the draft. There's no denying that. But all these rumors are interesting to me. I can't quite put my finger on it, and I'm not going to act like I know it's a smokescreen. I'm just saying, based off of history, they have been a very tight ship, and this year it seems less that way than before. It's not just this idea that the Texans might trade up in the draft. It's also that there are specific targets that they are making public. Per Fowler, quote, one NFC executive predicts Houston is interested in Texas tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. That's something that we have heard multiple times from NFL draft scout Daniel Jeremiah from NFL.com. I think he's one of the best in the business. Here he is on the Ryan Russillo podcast with Todd McShay and Ryan Russillo saying exactly that.
The Houston Texans, it's going to be the law firm of Booker or Banks. Like they're drafting an offensive lineman between those two guys, whoever's there.
First person he mentioned, Kelvin Banks Jr., the tackle from Texas. The second one he mentioned, Tyler Booker, who is a guard from Alabama. More from Daniel Jeremiah, this time on the Mina Kimes show as part of ESPN in Omaha. Once again, presented with a possibility, hey, what if the Houston Texans do, say, Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State and Kelvin Banks Jr. are still on the board.
But what if they added Emeka Egbuka?
CJ Stroud might have something to say about that. I don't know. CJ I would like to be a little better protected than I was last year, but I wouldn't mind throwing to my friend in Emeka Egbuka.
Think you need for them?
Yeah, I think I would have to take Banks. I have a little higher grade on Egbuka. It's close, but I don't see how they leave that round without an offensive lineman. So I'm going to go offensive lineman.
Okay.
Not to mention, I was told the Houston Texans will not pass on Banks if he was there. So that's what they would do.
So you're hearing so many people reporting with confidence that the Texans are going to trade up and that the Texans like a specific prospect. And I think it's totally fair to say that's a little fishy. Hell, they might end up taking Kelvin Banks Jr. They might end up taking some other offensive lineman. And I'll admit, I don't know who's good. You don't either. I see Greg commenting on YouTube at Paul Gallant. The only offensive lineman worth trading up for is Banks. The others are not worth it. It's a weak offensive line class. Maybe, maybe not. Who fucking knows? It's the offensive lineman. It's hard to draft offensive linemen. The Texans have a terrible history of drafting offensive linemen. I went back in time to take a look at who the Houston Texans have drafted on the offensive line. The last class where they were able to find two good offensive linemen was 2012 under Rick Smith. They got Brandon Brooks in the 3rd round. They got Ben Jones in the 4th round. Those guys were pretty capable starters for them. But they let Brandon Brooks walk. He went to the Philadelphia Eagles. After that, here are some of the offensive linemen that the Houston Texans have drafted. Brennan Williams in 2013 in the 3rd round. For those who don't remember, this was a guy who was seemingly more interested in wrestling than he was in football. David Questenberry in the 6th round of 2013. Honestly, as far as 6th round picks go, David Questenberry was pretty good. 2014, first pick of the 2nd round. Second pick of the Bill O'Brien era after Jadeveon Clowney. Xavier Su'a-Filo. He didn't work out. 2016, 2nd round, pick 50. Center Nick Martin out of Notre Dame. That didn't work out. 2017, 4th round pick. Pick number 130, Julian Davenport. Didn't work out. 2018, 3rd round pick, 80th overall, Martinez Rankin. Didn't work out. 2019, 1st round, 23rd overall, Titus Howard. Howard's been solid. Has Howard been great? I think all of us have some questions about Titus Howard going forward. Is he good at right tackle? Is he good at left guard? He's versatile, I guess, but I don't know. I think you want a little more out of a 1st round pick. But hey, not a bust at least. And honestly, he's the best offensive lineman that they have drafted since Brandon Brooks and Ben Jones. More offensive line picks by the Texans. 2019, 2nd round pick, pick 55 overall, Max Sharping. That guy's been on a bunch of teams ever since then. 2020, 4th round pick, 126, Charlie Heck. Haven't seen much of him. Kenyon Green, obviously, that was a bust. Pick 15 in 2022. Juice Scruggs, 2nd round pick, 2023. Jared Patterson, 6th round pick, 2023. And Blake Fisher, 2nd round pick last year. All those guys, I'm going to give them a little bit more time. But the Texans have struggled to draft offensive linemen. It's hard to draft offensive linemen. And to Greg's point, okay, it could be a weak offensive line class. Most classes have to go uphill given the limitations due to the NFL's collective bargaining agreement about how much offensive linemen can practice, how physical they can be during the offseason. They really can't be physical. How much better can you get if you're not in game situations? It's really difficult. So maybe Kelvin Banks Jr. is the only guy that they like. And you know what? If Kelvin Banks Jr. is the only guy that the Houston Texans like, fuck it, trade up for him. If there's another offensive lineman that they like, fuck it, trade up for him. In no particular order, I think the Texans, after offensive linemen, need a wide receiver, need a tight end, hopefully someone who's a little more physical than the guys they currently have, a defensive tackle, a linebacker, a running back, but they need a guard, they need a tackle, they need offensive linemen, and I don't give a shit who they take on the offensive line. I'm going to say, fuck it. This is the guy that they liked. I want them to draft the guy that they like. And if they trade up for a guy, that's confirmation that they like the guy. So if they trade up for Kelvin Banks and they give up a lot to do it, on a team that, as you heard earlier from Nick Caserio, that he thinks is good, fine. I'm okay with that. I think Nick Caserio, even if his track record when it comes to drafting offensive linemen has earned our trust when it comes to trading up. Trading back too, but specifically trading up. And sure, I will be skeptical of any offensive lineman that the Texans pick because of their recent track record, and honestly, just their track record as an organization since 2012, whether it was Rick Smith or Brian Gaine or Bill O'Brien or Nick Caserio running the show. I mean, it's been slim pickings on the offensive line in the draft. But if they trade up to go get a guy, I'm not going to act like I'm an expert like a lot of the people who are full of shit online. I'm going to give it a thumbs up if it's an offensive lineman. Any move to trade up for an offensive lineman, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Hell, if they trade up to get anybody, a wide receiver, a defensive player, I'm going to give it a thumbs up because generally, when Nick Caserio has been drafting, when he's been running the Houston Texans, he's been getting it right. I'm not an expert. You're not either. Sit back, enjoy this thing tomorrow, and celebrate all the guys who are getting to realize a lifelong dream. I know I sound like a sentimental pussy right now. Don't care. I love this part of the NFL draft. I wish that it was not as overcovered as it is these days, because I do think it lends itself to people having outsized expectations for players entirely based off of where they're drafted. If you're a first-round pick, and I actually went and I did an article about this, if you end up being a 4 to 5 year starter and not even getting a second contract, that's a success. I think a lot of people look at a first-round pick and you expect that guy to be a perennial Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, even a Hall of Famer, and maybe at the top of the first round, that is something that should happen. But I am looking for somebody who can play, given that, as Nick Caserio, as you heard from him earlier, it's a 50-50 proposition with just about all of these picks. And even the people who are the best at scouting, they're going to fuck up a bunch. So this is my advice to you. And again, if you're a football junkie and you are craving that heavily cut drug of football, and it's heavily cut. I mean, this is some shit football, right? Like, you're looking at mock drafts. This is all baking powder, baking soda, talcum powder. Forget everything that you've looked up. Forget everything that you know. Just sit back, have no expectations. We'll react to who they drafted. We hope that it'll all work out. But this guy, Nick Caserio, I'm sorry if you're second guessing him after this coming weekend. I'm probably just going to roll my eyes and ignore you. Anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning into this edition, NFL Draft Preview for the Houston Texans edition of the Gallant Says podcast. If you ever have a question, you can send it to me on email, gallantsays@gmail.com. It is live on YouTube at Paul Gallant. Like this video and subscribe if you're watching there. On Twitch at Gallant Says. Give me a sub if you're more of a Twitcher. On X and Twitter at Gallant Says. And on Instagram at Sports Gallant. Follow me on both of those if you haven't already. You can also check it out on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. Like my page. Monday through Friday around 4 p.m. Central Time. And or occasionally after major Houston sporting events. Paul, you started this one at like 5:50 today. I know. We're trying to get back in the swing of things, okay? Doing the solo show. And by the way, I'm doing a solo show now. I love Joe George. Joe George still at ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, but working behind the scenes, taking more time to be with his family. I'm doing the solo show, the Paul Gallant Show, noon to 3 on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 by myself with Sean Mapes behind the glass. We're having a lot of fun. A little more work now, so this has been on the back burner, but I wanted to get back into doing this. It's available wherever you get your podcasts after the fact. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review me on Apple or Spotify. If you roast my ass, I will read it. Until later tonight after Rockets-Warriors Game 2, so long, farewell, and have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday. Peace.